Few aircraft in commercial aviation have earned the kind of reputation the Boeing 757 built over the years. It was powerful, versatile, and capable of flying routes that many narrow-body aircraft simply couldn't handle. Airlines loved it because it could operate from short runways, climb quickly through difficult weather, and even cross parts of the Atlantic Ocean while carrying a relatively small number of passengers. For decades, the 757 was the aircraft that could do almost everything. So in this video, we take a look at why airlines don't want the Boeing 757 anymore, how this once legendary aircraft dominated its niche for decades, and why newer jets like the Airbus A321XLR are now replacing it in the long-haul narrow-body market. The Boeing 757 was originally developed by Boeing under the project name 7N7. The goal was to create a replacement for the aging Boeing 727 while offering significantly improved efficiency and range. The aircraft secured its first orders in August 1978 and made its maiden flight on February 19, 1982. After completing testing, the jet received Federal Aviation Administration certification later that year before entering service with Eastern Airlines. The original variant, the Boeing 757-200, quickly became the backbone of many airline fleets. Over time, Boeing expanded the program with additional versions. A dedicated freighter model appeared in 1987, followed by a combi version in 1988 that allowed airlines to carry both cargo and passengers on the same aircraft. In 1996, Boeing introduced a stretched variant, the Boeing 757-300, which eventually entered service near the end of the decade. Production of the aircraft ultimately ended in October 2004. By that time, Boeing had delivered 1,050 aircraft to 54 customers around the world. The company shifted its focus toward the Boeing 737 Next Generation family, which was positioned as the long-term successor for many of the routes once flown by the 757. Part of what made the Boeing 757 so unique was its impressive performance. The aircraft was powered by either Rolls-Royce RB211 engines or Pratt & Whitney PW2000 engines. These engines produced between 36,000 and 43,500 pounds of thrust, making the aircraft one of the most powerful narrow-body jets ever built. Its aerodynamic design also contributed to its performance. The aircraft featured a 2,000-square-foot supercritical wing that reduced drag and improved fuel efficiency. It used a conventional tail and 6-abreast fuselage similar in width to the Boeing 707. Inside the cockpit, the aircraft introduced a 2-crew glass flight deck and shared a common type rating with the Boeing 767, allowing airlines to train pilots across both aircraft families more efficiently. The Boeing 757 was produced in 2 primary lengths. The standard 757-200 measured about 155 feet long, while the stretched 757-300 offered even greater passenger capacity. Over time, many passenger aircraft were converted into freighters, helping create a strong aftermarket demand for the airframe. During its peak years, the Boeing 757 became known as the aircraft that could do it all. Airlines initially used it to replace Boeing 727s on key domestic routes in the United States. Compared with the older jet, the 757 offered major improvements in range, payload capacity, and fuel efficiency, but it also maintained excellent performance at challenging airports. One of the aircraft's most valuable characteristics was its ability to operate from short runways or hot and high airports where thinner air reduces aircraft performance. The powerful engines allowed the aircraft to depart with full loads even in difficult conditions. At the same time, the jet was perfectly suited for long transcontinental flights across the United States. The Boeing 757 also benefited from regulatory changes in aviation. After extended-range twin-engine operational performance standards, commonly known as ETOPS, were introduced, airlines gained the ability to operate twin-engine aircraft on longer over-water routes. This allowed the 757 to open up entirely new transatlantic markets. Charter airlines also loved the aircraft. Its high seating density and strong utilization rates made it perfect for leisure routes to destinations like the Caribbean or Southern Europe. The aircraft could carry large numbers of passengers efficiently while maintaining relatively low operating costs. Major US airlines also relied heavily on the 757 for business-heavy routes. Its combination of range, speed, and efficiency made it ideal for hub-to-hub operations. The aircraft's shared type rating with the Boeing 767 simplified fleet planning and pilot scheduling for airlines that operated both aircraft types. Cargo operators eventually discovered the aircraft's potential as well. The freighter versions offered excellent cargo volume, flexible pallet loading options, and rugged structural durability. Even today, converted passenger aircraft continue to serve as freighters around the world. But over time, the aviation industry began to change. The aircraft's role gradually narrowed as maintenance costs increased and newer narrow-body aircraft entered the market. The Airbus A321LR and especially the Airbus A321XLR have become the aircraft most frequently compared with the 757. These modern narrow-body jets offer long-range capabilities that allow airlines to operate flights lasting 8 or even 9 hours between smaller destinations. At the same time, they feature modern cabins and improved economics. The lower fuel burn and lower operating costs make them particularly attractive to airlines that must compete in highly competitive markets. As a result, many of the routes once dominated by the Boeing 757 are now being taken over by these newer aircraft. Companies like UPS operate large fleets of Boeing 757-200F aircraft across both domestic and transatlantic routes. Federal Express also remains a major operator of the type, and DHL Aviation continues to use the aircraft extensively throughout Europe. Passenger operations, however, are becoming increasingly rare. In the United States, Delta Airlines and United Airlines remain the two largest passenger operators of the Boeing 757. Delta even introduced updated cabins on some of its aircraft recently, while United plans to continue operating both the 757-200 and the 757-300 variants. Outside the United States, Iceland Air has been one of the last major operators still flying the aircraft on transatlantic routes. However, even Iceland Air is gradually replacing its fleet with Airbus A321LR and A321XLR aircraft. In Europe, Condor retired its Boeing 757-300 aircraft in late 2025, marking another step in the gradual disappearance of the aircraft from passenger service. One of the biggest questions many aviation observers ask is why Boeing never upgraded the aircraft. A modernized version with new engines could theoretically have extended the life of the design. But the economics of such a project never made sense. By the early 2000s, airline demand had shifted toward lower-cost narrow-body aircraft such as the Boeing 737 and the Airbus A320 families. Orders for the 757 began to decline rapidly. Creating a modernized version of the aircraft would have required far more than simply installing new engines. Boeing would likely have needed to redesign major structural components, update avionics systems, and meet stricter safety and noise regulations. The aircraft would have required a full recertification process. Faced with these challenges, Boeing chose to focus on the development of the Boeing 737 MAX family instead. Meanwhile, Airbus moved forward with its A320neo family, eventually developing the long-range A321LR and A321XLR variants that now compete directly in the market once dominated by the Boeing 757. In the end, the Boeing 757 filled a unique gap in aviation history. When it first entered the market, there were few aircraft capable of delivering its combination of range, capacity, and performance. For many years, it served routes that other aircraft simply could not handle. What do you think? Should Boeing have developed a modern successor to the Boeing 757, or was the aircraft simply a product of a unique moment in aviation history that could never be repeated? Let us know by leaving a comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more aviation content. See you next time. In addition to our daily YouTube videos, Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles and a podcast every week. Visit simpleflying.com.